If Italian verb conjugations feel impossible to remember, it's not your fault. You've just been taught them the wrong way. Because instead of learning thousands of verbs in 15 different tenses, you can reduce everything down to just 7 simple pattern shortcuts. And once you see them, you can conjugate any tense on the spot. So in this video, I'll show you what they are so you can conjugate any Italian tense without memorizing verb tables. Pronti? Iniziamo! Now before we learn the first pattern shortcut, you'd need to know one thing. Every Italian verb belongs to one of 3 verb families. You can tell which family just by looking at the last 3 letters of any full infinitive verb, that is, before it's conjugated. This part of the verb means to do. Here are some examples. For the ARE family, we have parlare, meaning to speak, mangiare, to eat, abitare, to live. In the ERE family, we have prendere, to take, leggere, to read, and vendere, to sell. And then in the IRE family, we have finire, to finish, dormire, to sleep, and partire, to leave. Now, around 80% of all Italian verbs are from the ARE family. However, these 7 shortcuts that you're about to see work for all 3 verb families, and I'll show you exactly how to adapt each one as we go. Now, here's why this matters. The verb family decides which endings the verb takes. Now, that's the foundation. Let's build on it, starting with the first shortcut. This first pattern shortcut is the basis of everything you're about to learn here today, the present tense, or il presente in Italian. Now, even if you already know the present tense, stay with me because there are patterns in here that connect directly to every other shortcut I'll be sharing. Now, the presente is your workhorse tense. It covers 3 different English tenses at once. I speak, I am speaking, and I do speak. Use it for what's happening right now, what you do regularly, and even for things happening in the very near future. For example, just by saying, parlo italiano, I'm saying I speak Italian, I am speaking Italian, and I do speak Italian. Here's how to conjugate the present tense. Take any verb, chop off the family ending, which could be ARE, ERE, and IRE, and what's left is called the stem. Then add the endings that tell us who is doing the action. Take a look at this table.
Parlo, parli, parla, parliamo, parlate, parlano. Prendo, prendi, prende, prendiamo, prendete, prendono. Dormo, dormi, dorme, dormiamo, dormite, dormono.
Now look across the 3 columns and notice what's identical and what shifts. Pattern shortcut number 1 is, in the present tense, io always ends in O. Parlo, prendo, dormo. Tu always ends in I. Parli, prendi, dormi. Noi always ends in iamo. Parliamo, prendiamo, dormiamo. Now the other 3 pronouns shift slightly depending on the family, but the rule is always the same. The consonant stays, only the vowel changes. Lui, lei ends in a vowel. A for ARE verbs, parla. E for ERE and IRE verbs, so we get prende and dorme. Voi always ends in a TE. Just use the family vowel. Ate, ete, or ite. So we get parlate, prendete, dormite. And finally, loro always ends in NO. We just swap the vowel. We use ano for ARE verbs, so we get parlano, and ONO or ono for ERE and IRE verbs. And we get prendono and dormono. Enjoying this lesson? Don't let the learning stop here. Make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet for this lesson, which includes how to use these shortcuts for all 15 tenses. To get your copy, just click on the link in the description below this video. Now let's move on to pattern shortcut number 2. Now that you've got the present tense pattern in your head, hopefully, the future tense is going to feel almost too easy. Now, the futuro is used for things that haven't happened yet. We say, I will speak, I will travel, I will eat. We use this for making plans, predictions, and promises. Now, here's how to conjugate the future tense. Take the whole infinitive verb and drop that final E, and what's left is the future stem. And we have
parler, prender, dormir.
Now here's a quick note. Only for ARE verbs, the final A of the stem softens to become an E for easier pronunciation. So it's parler, not parlar. Next, we add the endings, which are identical for all three families. Take a look.
Parlerò, parlerai, parlerà, parleremo, parlerete, parleranno. Prenderò, prenderai, prenderà, prenderemo, prenderete, prenderanno. Dormirò, dormirai, dormirà, dormiremo, dormirete, dormiranno.
So shortcut number 2 is, in the future tense, io always ends in O with a stressed accent. Tu ends in I. Lui, lei ends in A with a stressed accent. Noi ends in emo. There's that MO sound from iamo in the present tense. It's still doing its job. Voi ends in ete, and that TE ending is what you've already seen in the present tense. Loro ends in anno, that same NO ending as parlano, just with a double N. Let's move on to shortcut number 3. Now this time we're going to look at our first past tense, the passato prossimo, which follows a simple pattern. The passato prossimo is used to talk about what happened and finished in the past. For example, I spoke, I ate, I went. Now this is a compound tense, which means it's built from two pieces put together. The first part is called the auxiliary verb, and for this we choose either avere, to have, or essere, to be, in the present tense. The second part is the past participle of the main verb. So here's the formula. Essere or avere in the present tense, plus the past participle of the main verb. Here's how to form the past participle. For ARE verbs, it becomes ato. For example, parlare becomes parlato. For ERE verbs, it becomes uto. For example, vendere becomes venduto. And for IRE verbs, it becomes ito. For example, finire becomes finito. So pattern shortcut number 3 is drop the infinitive ending and replace it with ato, uto, or ito, according to the family vowel. Only ERE verbs change their vowel to become uto. Now that you have the second part of the formula, how do you know which auxiliary verb to use in the first part? We use essere when the verb shows a change of place, movement, or state. For example,
Sono andato.
I went.
Sono arrivato.
I arrived.
Mi sono svegliato.
I woke up. We use avere for most other actions, especially things you do. For example,
Ho mangiato.
I ate.
Ho letto.
I read.
Ho comprato.
I bought. Attenzione! With essere, the participle, that second part, agrees in gender and number with the subject. For example, sono venuto is what a male would say to say I came. If a female said this same phrase, it would be sono venuta, I came. And for a group of men or a mixed gender group, we say siamo venuti, we came. And if the group consists of only women, we would say siamo venute. With avere, the past participle never changes. Are you enjoying this lesson? Don't let the learning stop here. Make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet, which includes how to use these shortcuts for all 15 tenses. To get your copy, just click on the link in the description below this video. Now let's move on to pattern shortcut number 4. Now this one is genuinely the easiest in this whole lesson. Why? Because you don't need to learn any new endings. You just reuse the ones that we've already seen in shortcut number 1. It is for the imperativo. This is the tense that we use to give commands or instructions like eat or listen or stop. You'll hear Italian nonnas shout mangia, mangia at the dinner table. That's the imperativo in action. Now there are 4 forms that you'll use, depending on who you're talking to. You'll use tu, which is the in formula singular, with friends, family, or even children. Then we have the lei form, which is used in formal settings or with strangers and people that you don't know well. Notice here that we use a capital L. Then we have the noi form, which basically means let's, and then you add in the verb. Now this is suggesting something to do together. Then we have the voi form, which is used when talking to a group. Take a look and see how we conjugate the imperativo.
Parla. Parli. Parliamo. Parlate. Prendi. Prenda. Prendiamo. Prendete. Dormi. Dorma. Dormiamo. Dormite.
So pattern shortcut number 4 is 3 of the 4 imperative forms are exactly the same as the present tense from shortcut 1. Only 2 small things change. The first change is the tu form for are verbs. The ending flips from I to a. So parli, you speak, becomes parla, speak. For are verbs and ire verbs, there's no change at all. The tu command is identical to the present tense, prendi. So we say prendi and dormi. The second change affects the lei form. Now the form flips its vowels here. This is the swap to watch out for. Are verbs end in I instead of a, and we get parli. And ere verbs and ire verbs end in a instead of e. So we say prenda or dorma. Think of these vowels like they've just swapped shoes. The other 2 we get for free. Noi and voi are exactly the same as the present tense forms that you've already seen. And we say parliamo and parlate. Now here's a bonus tip. If you want to form a negative command, as in don't do something, you just say non plus the full infinitive verb. No conjugation is needed. So we say non parlare, don't speak. Non scherzare, don't joke. Non dormire, don't sleep. Let's move on to pattern shortcut number 5. Now here's where shortcut number 2 really pays off. If you learned the future tense, you've already done 90% of the work for this tense. The tense I'm talking about is the condizionale, the conditional. And this is the would tense. I would speak, I would buy, I would go. Use this for polite requests and talking about hypotheticals and dreams. Now, crucially, it's also how you sound polite rather than demanding. And we can say, vorrei un caffè, per favore. I'd like a coffee, please. Instead of a more demanding, voglio un caffè, I want a coffee. Here's how to conjugate the conditional tense. Now remember the future stems from shortcut 2? We have parler, prender, and dormir. Now you're going to reuse those exact same stems, but with new endings. And once again, the endings are identical for all 3 families. Take a look at this table.
Parlerei. Parleresti. Parlerebbe. Parleremmo. Parlereste. Parlerebbero. Prenderei. Prenderesti. Prenderebbe. Prenderemmo. Prendereste. Prenderebbero. Dormirei. Dormiresti. Dormirebbe. Dormiremmo. Dormireste. Dormirebbero.
So pattern shortcut number 5 is, in the conditional, the future stems get a new set of endings, which are the same across all 3 families. Io always ends in ei, tu ends in esti, Lui, lei ends in ebbe. Noi ends in emmo. Remember that mo sound back from iamo? Well, it's back. And then voi ends in este, and that te sound is still there. Loro ends in ebbero. And notice that lui, lei ending, ebbe, is hiding right inside it. You just add ro and you've got the loro form. Attenzione, here's the most common trap that learners fall into. Pay attention to your pronunciation of the noi form. In the future, we use one M and we use two M's for the conditional. Listen to the difference.
Parleremo. Parleremmo.
One letter is the difference between what will happen and what could happen, and Italian ears are attuned to hear it. Enjoying this lesson? Don't let the learning stop here. Make sure you download your free PDF cheat sheet, which includes how to use these shortcuts for all 15 tenses. To get your copy, just click on the link in the description below this video. Now let's move on to pattern shortcut number 6. Now this is probably the simplest of them all, and it affects the imperfecto. Now this is the second past tense that you usually learn in Italian, but it does a different job from the passato prossimo that we learned in shortcut 3. The passato prossimo is for finished actions like I spoke. The imperfecto is for actions that kept going or used to happen continually in the past. For example, I was speaking or I used to speak. It's also the tense that you'll use to describe the past, such as what the weather was like, how someone looked, or how you felt. Here's how to conjugate the imperfecto. You drop the re from the full infinitive verb to get the stem. And what we're left is, from parlare, we get parla, prendere, we get prende, and dormire, we get dormi. And then we add the following endings. Take a look at this table.
Parlavo. Parlavi. Parlava. Parlavamo. Parlavate. Parlavano. Prendevo. Prendevi. Prendeva. Prendevamo. Prendevate. Prendevano. Dormivo. Dormivi. Dormiva. Dormivamo. Dormivate. Dormivano.
So pattern shortcut number 6 is, in the imperfecto, every single form is built on the letter V, with the family vowel sitting right in front of it. So io ends in vo, tu ends in vi, lui, lei ends in va, noi ends in vamo, voi ends in vate, loro ends in vano. Attenzione! There are only 3 irregular verbs in the imperfecto. These are essere, which becomes ero, fare becomes facevo, and bere becomes bevevo. That's the whole list of exceptions. Now let's move on to the next pattern shortcut, which will feel familiar because it borrows from the shortcuts that we've already seen. Gotta love that. Now this shortcut forms the congiuntivo, that scary subjunctive. This is what we use in Italian to express doubt, opinion, emotion, and wishes. Anything uncertain or subjective to us and not factual. Now, English barely uses this, which is why it can feel a bit intimidating at first. But in Italian, it follows everyday phrases like, I think that, or I hope that, and I'm afraid that. Here's how to conjugate the congiuntivo presente, the subjunctive in the present tense.
Parli. 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 Parliamo. Parliate. Parlino. Prenda. 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 Prendiamo. Prendiate. Prendano. Dorma. 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 Dormiamo. Dormiate. Dormano.
So pattern shortcut number 7 is, in the subjunctive, the family vowels swap. Where ARE verbs normally take A endings, in the subjunctive, they take the letter I. Where ERE and IRE verbs normally take E endings, they now take A. those vowels swap shoes again, exactly like we saw with the lay form in shortcut number 4. Now there are 2 more shortcuts that make this tense even easier. Io, tu, and lui, lei all share the same form within each family. It's incredible, but it's true. The noi form is still iamo, literally the same words that we saw from the present tense in shortcut 1, and that just leaves voi and loro. Voi ends in iate, that te ending is still doing its job, and loro ends in no, no. So we get ino for are verbs and ano for ere and ire verbs. There's another pattern here too. The io ending is hiding inside the loro ending. Parli sits inside parlino. Prenda sits inside prendano. Just add no to the io form and you've got loro. Now, even though you now know how to conjugate any Italian verb in any tense, none of it matters if you can't actually form a proper sentence. And for that, you need words. So watch this video here where I share 5 cheat codes to learn thousands of words in just a few seconds.